Alright, we're ready to begin the second part of the reconciliation process, which is to explain to you the cash coding screen. And so to get there, like I mentioned before, you have one of two ways. Go to the Manage button, then click Reconcile Account, or we can click this Reconcile 25 items. And now that we've come to the Reconcile screen, I'm going to turn your attention towards the second tab, which is Cash Coding. And one thing to note here, if you don't see the cash coding tab within your account, that means you need to upgrade your permissions. And as a quick aside, you'll go to Settings, then to General Settings. And when you go to Users, what you'll do is you click on your own name, and you're going to make sure that you add yourself as an advisor. That is the key thing. You want to click on your name and then make yourself the advisor. When you do, that gives you upgraded permissions to use the cash coding screen. I can go into why that is later, why you weren't an advisor right away. It's not all that important, but if you don't see the cash coding screen, you'll need to go update your user permissions. Now that we are at this cash coding screen, let me give you the layout of the LAN. Just like the Reconcile tab, you'll have the drop down to pick your different accounts at the top. You also have the same reconciliation report, quick link, and the Manage Account drop down button. And what you'll see here is that this screen takes a much different approach from the previous screen, which took a one-to-one approach where we're matching bank statement lines to zero transactions. Here, we take all these bank statement lines and it dumps it into an Excel spreadsheet type format. So, of course, we have our date column, we have our payee column, and our reference column, and our description column. You'll notice that these 6 columns all have a blue link at the top, and what that means is you can sort this cash coding screen by these columns. So it defaults to sorting by date, but I could also sort by payee, or I could sort by description or reference. And one thing to note here is that with a traditional bank statement feed, what's going to happen is you're probably going to see data in the date column. The payee column is going to be blank. The reference column is going to have data in it, and then the description and account tax rate region will all be blank as well with the amount. So traditionally it's date, reference, and amount. That is traditionally what is brought in via feed. The big idea with this screen and what makes it so powerful is since you can sort by these column headings, what you can start doing is sorting like transactions and grouping them together. And then what we'll do is we'll come over to the left-hand side, we'll click this checkbox. So let's say we wanted to knock out central parking altogether. We'll click the checkbox on the first one. We'll press Shift, and while we hold down Shift, we'll click the checkbox on the last central parking. And what it does is it highlights all of these together. And what we can do is we can categorize them all at once. So let's say this is parking. Let's look for maybe a parking. It doesn't look like there is a parking in this chart of accounts, but let's just go ahead and say that this was an automobile expense. Once we click automobile expense, it'll populate for the first line, and then you have to click tab, and it'll populate for all the rest. So if you're doing a lot of cleanup work, you can see that this screen right away is very, very powerful, and you can sort all of your transactions together and start bulk editing and categorizing your transactions, which is really, really powerful. So once you've categorized the transaction, what we're going to do is click this button at the bottom to save and reconcile the selected transactions. And here it says we have 5 that were saved and reconciled successfully. So just with a few clicks of a button, you see we've knocked out 5 transactions, which is of course much more efficient than the reconcile screen, which we would have had to enter the data in one by one for all 5 transactions. So this cache coding screen is one of the more powerful tools in making your bookkeeping process much more efficient, but it's really only half the story. So yes, you can knock out transactions very quickly with this screen, but when you combine this with bank rules, which I'll explain in the next video, it makes for a very powerful 1-2 punch and making your bookkeeping process super quick and super efficient. So I'll see you on that video.